Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everybody is in the world today. As always, we are here with the incredible Laura Brennan Ballet on the Shift and Code podcast. And I'm, of course, Stefan. I must apologize. My lighting is not the best today. I'm not in my usual space at home. I've actually traveled a bit, but we could not skip out on parts 2 and 3 of our incredible discussion with Izzy Matos. Today's topic, of course, is how being in a sexually fulfilling relationship with yourself and your partner benefits your overall well being. Before we get into that, though, Laura, how are you today? How's the week going?
Oh, it's going. I'm excited. We were just talking about this backstage, how to empower one another, show
Mm,
up with kindness in our heart and happiness for one another. And I love this. This is what we're going to do today. It's kind of a cool slant on happiness, but it's going to make
every,
people
it
happy.
definitely is a cool slant to it, I think.
Yeah.
Specifically because, as we mentioned, we're going to be talking with Izzy. Our audience will know from part 1, we discussed a more holistic approach to life in general. Today, we're talking about sex specifically because, well, some of the products that Izzy helps us to use actually assist us with our sex lives. Because the one thing that we've noticed has happened a lot is there's so much physical and mental stress around us constantly. There's all these toxins in the world around us. We're under incredible pressure to perform at work. And because of all of this, we tend to stagnate sexually. And yet, the world seems to be so heavily focused on sex, which is a little
Right.
bit weird.
Right.
But Laura, you and I have actually had this discussion before.
Yeah.
Something which could have been a very profound, beautiful experience between people who really do love each other has instead become something very dirty. And we seem to have lost the flirtatiousness, the fun, the
Oh,
excitement of enjoying, yeah, ourselves and our partners as well. So
yeah.
without further ado, let's welcome Izzy to the stage. Hi, Izzy. How you doing today?
Here's the man.
Hey guys, hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
If I were any better, I wouldn't know who I was. I gotta be honest.
God, I love that. This is what we have to bottle up, right? It's this authentic gratitude and connection to the beauty and the power, right, of happiness and wellness. And you're living it. I cannot wait to do a podcast from the island of Puerto Rico.
Yes.
I've been practicing an attitude of gratitude most of my life, but mostly within the past couple of years. Getting to live here on the island. I put up on Facebook a post last night about sitting in the pool. It was 97 degrees. The water was 88, overlooking the ocean and the beach below me. And I thought, man, it's if you pay the price, life can be everything you want it to be, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I like where I am right now. It's a good place.
And what beautiful energy, right, to gift and impart and share with this community and beyond. We need people who hold that energetic construct to
Mm,
remind us of the hope, to remind us of our own potential. And no matter where we are in our life, personally or professionally, there are opportunities, there are new doorways, there are new pathways that you can walk upon and live this life in a state of bliss.
it's
I
so
can
interesting
better
that you
agree
both
with that.
talking about
But again,
that. Yeah.
yeah, your topic basically blends all of that in. If you're
Mm,
not if you're not centered, if you're not in a very whole place, nothing can get through. Whether it is accepting affection, sexuality, whatever you call it, karmic gratitude. If you're not giving off that vibration, if you're not in tune with what's right and whole, it just doesn't work. So
No, no.
that's exactly it. When Laura and myself were going over the notes and prepping for this episode, the one thing that kept coming up is it's all about flow, right? It's your mental flow. If there's a blockage there, the body's not going to quite work. If there's a blockage physically, your life is not going to quite work, right? And instead, when we get into, as you said, an attitude of gratitude, you start to see the obstacles move out the way. You flow more easily in life. And in turn, you're able to enjoy a less stressed life which means that you are a better partner for your significant others.
And I love the word flow, right? Because
Mm,
when Izzy moves into a little bit of the flow of STEM tech and these supplements, and
mm,
again, what I love about the Shift and Co. and now working with Izzy and talking and sharing is it all is in this beautiful arena. It's not like we're bringing things in that are separate. We really do talk about mind, body, spirit, consciousness, however you want to look at it. It could be God force, it could be universal force, it could be science based, it could be emotional based, but we're all looking and searching for ways to be more present, to be more whole, to experience life differently than the push to just achieve, the push to just perform. How can we still enjoy the human condition and all of its potential and do it in a way that's kind to ourselves, kind to one another? And what can we, do in our daily life? What material can we listen to? What books can we read? What products can we consume that are all in that flow of really showing up in an authentic way, in a very genuine way, personally and with partnership, and certainly with friendships and business relationships as well.
One of the things I advocate the most in what I do to the global organization that I head is that there has to be a life balance. It can't all be, that rat race pursuit, no matter how big or small, in pursuit of that goal issue. You've got to carve out time for the human element, as you call,
Yeah.
physical touch, emotional connection, that downtime that allows you to recharge the spirit to keep going. Too many people want to just push, 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 and the burnout is more than just physical; it's psychological and emotional. We help with that, but you need to be cognizant of it. That's a lesson I wish I learned in my early 20s and 30s in my
Me
business
too.
career. It was just insane, and it took a while to figure it out, but once I did, it was good.
Yeah. And I think it's so important no matter when we get it. For me, I've learned it doesn't matter at what stage, as long as you get it. I think that there's something that shifts within a person. We all know people that are very young, middle age, and older. Even my parents are, getting up there, and I see these slight changes in the way they look at the world and where they're accepting things differently, and their hearts are
mm.
more open. I think that's so important. And again, it's what I love what we do at the Shift. It's what I love about STEM Tech. Just people related, really learning how, again, not to burn out and how to take the day-to-day breakdown of life and move it in, shift it into an environment that's pleasant, that does bring some fun. And as we talk about the relationships, Stefan and I always talk about this, bringing in that love of self and that flow, and get back to flirting with your loved one and creating those date nights instead of going outside of the relationship, really putting that energy and effort. How do we eat? What movies are we watching? Are we taking a walk or having lunch in the middle of the day, or a glass of wine by the pool overlooking the ocean, or traveling to a new environment to spark all of the flow of life?
It's funny you
I
say that.
will,
I love our. I'm sorry, Stefan.
no problem. Go
I love
ahead.
our particular topic today because it's something that, at my age, I'm 65, even though I try not to act it. Um, you know, that connection becomes even more critical in late stages of
Mm,
life. And
Absolutely.
there are studies coming out that saying that I think it's almost a third of our population is in what's called an incel relationship. It's involuntarily celibate, but it's not due to
mm,
um, a disregard for sexuality. It's due to a malfunction in sexuality. If the mind, body, heart connection don't work, you can't do anything about that. So we've got to get back to those issues. We've got to figure out how to deal with the male issue, dysfunction. There's better ways than to resort to, the primary med issues out there. There's easy ways to fix that. And once that physical blockage is done, then we work on that emotional connection, restart that, and let the body heal, repair, restore, renew itself so that functioning correctly, the head gets straight, the rest of it gets straight. No
Yeah.
pun intended.
As you took the words right out of my mouth there, Izzy, because I was literally about to say that, with the product with STEM Tech, being able to essentially help the body to repair itself, to behave the way it's supposed to. If then the physicality of the situation is not even a consideration because everything just works, right? Now
Right.
suddenly there's no stress on it. How much more attention can you then put on your partner's mental and emotional state if you're not stressed about, am I going to be able to, let alone perform, enjoy sex with my partner, right? And that's
Exactly.
something that men and women go through. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's what's so incredible about this.
And we've got a composite situation where both aspects, male and female, get to work on. With women, sexuality is more of an emotional issue. It starts in the head, and it really, if
Mm.
the head doesn't connect with the body, it's not going to work. And women are under more stress than people give them, credit for being in. If you're a mom, a single mom, an active mom, a working mom, all those things weigh on you because you've got your active life and you've got your home life, and it can be overwhelming. And those things throw off body chemistry, throw off the hormones. It really leads to a degeneration in the condition of being. And it's the same thing with men. We suffer from the same conditions, the stresses, the emotions, and whatnot. And then we have the added issue of constriction in our blood flow as we get older, which is really one of the primary issues with ED, is the fact that blood flow circulation isn't what it is. And the older we get, the more prevalent that becomes. So, in STEM tech, it's not that we heal or we cure or we deal with any of things. We don't make any of those claims because that's not what our products do. But the side benefit of what it does do, besides repairing, restoring, renewing the body, is the fact some aspects of it, like in the male condition, we've got components in our product, our STEM flow, that act kind of like, the best analogy would be like Roto-Rooter. There are fibrin buildup in the blood that prevent adequate blood flow. So we have to open up the capillaries and the veins and clear those out. And by dilating the vasculature, it increases blood flow. And essentially, if you think about what the little blue pill does, it's a vasodilator. It's nothing more than that. So we happen to effect that incidentally. And it's a great side benefit for men. As I said, I'm 65. I'm still what I consider newly married. We're only married 5 years. So, that connection is critically important. And as a Latin man, I have a lot to live up to. There's a reputation I'll have to uphold.
I love this. And I love how having a side benefit of anything that is good for us, right, is beautiful. Like things that are man-made and the synthetics that go into, the chemical labs that create things. There's a time and a place and maybe a necessity for those on a health scale. But here we're talking about a product that absolutely is so beautifully created that helps aid in the natural chem lab within our natural state of being, and then all of these side benefits. So
Yeah.
why not, right, ingest something? It's like eating a proper diet can give you better blood flow, right? Can make your mind clear. This is just another part of this beautiful alchemy of gifts that we can take to really help our mind, body, spirit connection. And I absolutely love what you said, especially for men. When the body and the chemistry is being altered, whether it's through age, whether it's through alcohol, whether it's through drugs, through stress, there's so much riding on that mechanism to be able to perform. And then that affects the mental, then that affects the emotional, then it's all connected.
I'm a big believer in the 5 languages of love. And to me, it's kind of like a cornerstone issue. And, what you're saying really does relate to what we do because it's a cascade effect. Like, one of the 5 languages is quality time. But if you're not functioning correctly and you don't have that mental focus, how can you give your partner any portion of your time? It's just you're listening to be there, but not listening to be present. So you need to deal with that. Physical touch. We all crave that, that connection, that physical connection, whether it's a hug or just a touch on the hand. And again, if you are reticent to do so because you're afraid of what the consequences would be, you touch me, we both get, into that mood, and then nothing happens. that
Right.
creates its own set of dynamics, because then you shut down emotionally, you shut down
Yeah.
physically. So all of these things intertwine, and you can't just deal with the one. You've got to look at the whole situation and then build on that. So we get a lot of stories at STEM Think about people, young and old, that have these remarkable turnarounds, and it's got nothing to do with the product. It's got to do with the fact that we bring the body back to where it needs to be, so that it's repairing, restoring, and renewing the vital aspects that we have. And some of the great benefits, cognition, mental acuity, function. It's part of being a whole person, and I love that about what we do.
Yeah.
Contributing to that.
I actually cannot stress enough how important that aspect is, because it's part of our wondrous human experience. But
Yes.
I think that in all the muck and mire that the society tries to throw our way, we've lost touch with why sex and sexuality is part of this experience. And I mean, if you look at pretty much every spiritual discipline on the planet, sex and sexuality is a deeply spiritual experience that is supposed
Absolutely.
to be shared between you and your partner.
Right.
And in my mind, then it's if that's how we look at it, if we're able to look at it as a spiritual experience, something that we really should deeply enjoy and that we should find deeply gratifying, then to me it's like, well, it's kind of our responsibility to make sure that it works properly,
No.
because it deepens the connection. So yes.
Laura brought something up. I think it was you, Laura, at the beginning of this thing, and that's the fact that where we are here in the States, there's still a very puritanical attitude about sex
Mm,
and sexuality. And not to get into any political constructs, but it's going awry hugely when we deal with aspects of sexuality, sexual identification. And as a result of that, people tend to bury the situations. They don't talk to their partners about the sexuality. They don't discuss their needs and emotions. We stifle those. Same thing in the UK. I mean, in South Africa, you still got some of that, British influence in there. These are topics that we don't talk about. Whereas in other countries, like in Latin America, there's a freer attitude towards that. Like
mm,
Japan, the Asian countries, we need to recognize the fact that part of that human construct, part of keeping humanity going, is that physical connection, that sexuality, and we need to be, aware of that. Not hide from the issues, embrace them as a core function of who we are as creatures of life.
Right.
Embrace that and make it a whole part of who we are. I think it's sad. I really do. That we can't discuss these things. People cringe when you bring it up, but maybe in time that'll change. Maybe conversations like this will
Yes.
help bridge that.
And that's what, part of why the Shift and Co., one aspect of why Stefan and I work an effort with the heart that we do for that exact reason, bringing it out, to the forefront. So there's a place to talk, there's a place to communicate and exchange, to be vulnerable, to gain trust in a community. So it's not that we're saying this is the one answer. This is how it should be. It's an opportunity to flow in conversation and flow with the exchange of the possibilities. And you're right, Izzy, we all around the world, but here in the States, there's a lot of strange energy being thrown all over the place. But how do we, us everyday people, really open up and be vulnerable to our partners and say, this is something that I need to talk to you about? And then our partner understands that it has to do with diet, it has to do with lifestyle choices. And that when we're not functioning at the peak or the very best we can, it really does, as you said, cascade. It's like a waterfall down. And
Yeah.
depending on what's accumulating right at that bottom fall, that can make or break how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about our partnerships. And then again, the intimacy and the vulnerability around being sexual and around exchanging what that means to us. There's a lot here to talk about and discuss, which I'm sure we'll have many more podcasts down the
oh,
road on this. But again, being mindful of how can I take care of my mind and body so that I'm showing up in relation at my highest level. And then when you have that partner that really desires to do the same, now you're matching and exchanging energies that are in the more positive side of the scale than the negative.
I think dialogue continues to
Dialogue.
be a big part of that. And I'll give you an example. We're reticent to discuss the topic amongst ourselves as couples. We're even more reticent to bridge that topic with people outside of our unit. I had an issue, well, I'm going back now, gosh, 14 years ago, with a couple that came into our organization, and we became really good friends, fast friends. We lived in different states, but we visited each other frequently. And that confidence level grew. What I found out was that they were in there at the time, mid 60s. They hadn't had any intimacy in over 10 years. And it got to the point where it became the white elephant in the room. They wouldn't talk about it, they didn't discuss it. It became a real obstacle for them. And as the conversation ensued, I tried to encourage the husband to take more of our stem flow product because it wasn't a psychological issue. It became a psychological issue because of the physical issue. And since they were afraid to discuss it with the doctor, he was a very reserved individual. How I managed to bridge that, I don't know. But after about 3 months on the product, it changed. And then little by little, that whole relationship began to revert to what it was in their dating days. They were flirtatious, a lot of PDA, a lot of touching. And it was so wonderful, gratifying to go back a year later and see this couple in a renewed circumstance. What we do at our company isn't just about making money and creating a business. It really is about digging deep into the human condition and making it better, restoring the body to where it should be using a science that's still burgeoning. But these side effects that we get are really encouraging and incredible, from the physical side and the financial. But the physical side is really what's so rewarding. Not just sexuality, but so much more than that. But yes, because of the topic, the sexual issue is very critical to the human condition.
I just want to say before we wrap up, I don't think there is another product on the market where the head of the company talks about the side effects with glowing reviews.
That's exactly why I love STEMtech. It is the energy and the vibrancy and the heart of this company. We all, and Stefan, you and I, what was our one goal when we really were dreaming about the Shift & Co? And this was to have fun. And this is what it is about for me, creating this joy, this spark of love of self, love of one another, certainly the love within our partnerships, that it shouldn't be hard. It should just be joyful. And even though these are sensitive and vulnerable topics, here is something that can actually help the body reconnect to its fun, its joy. It just gets sparked and it feels good. And then, as we've all been talking about, then the mind clicks in, then the emotion clicks in. Why not? Instead of going outside of your relationship, right, which so many people do, go deeper in. Eat well, take supplements, create a dream business, a side hustle, go into your partnership deeper and better than ever before, create health and wellness. And this is one way of doing it. Shift & Co. and STEMtech.
Absolutely. We now obviously have to get to our the tarot reading and power quote. But I'm going to do it slightly flipped about because I'm not in my usual space. So nothing's where it's supposed to be. I just realized now because my tarot cards always sit literally within arm's reach on my desk every day, all day. But they're not there at the moment because obviously I'm not at home. Laura, whilst I go and grab them, would you be so kind as to share the power quote with me?
I will. Thank you.
This is my favorite part.
I know. We love doing this. So does everybody that listens. It's the coolest thing. So I love this power quote because, Izzy, as you know, we don't know how the conversations are going to flow. We have a topic and we talk, but you don't know, right? It's so authentic. And I love this. I want you to hear the quote, but I want you to take it in and empower yourself with this quote. It says, "We are at a continuous disadvantage due to our unwillingness to alter the outcome."
Wow. Oh, that's deep. wow.
So now I want you to realize that everything we talk about at the Shift & Co., everything that STEM Tech is about is in place if you are willing to alter that outcome in a positive way. So remind yourself that you have options and opportunity to change your outcome if you are willing. And willingness is the second principle of the J3 equals E. So this ties in so beautifully here.
That is just absolutely amazing. I'm
Yeah.
excited now to see what the reading is, because
Yeah.
as we know, it's actually not more often than not always aligned perfectly with the power quote that Laura draws for us.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. This is obviously a reading just on the general energy of the discussion we've had today around sex, sexuality, the physicality of it, and of course the mental, emotional, and spiritual parts too. Hmm. Ooh. Okay.
Those noises fit right in with our
I
topic.
know. I was just thinking the same thing.
I'll blurt it out.
This
I'm
is-
sorry.
This is very, very, very intriguing because it goes hand in hand with what Laura, what you just said before we were doing the power quote. But instead of going outside the relationship, go deeper.
Yeah.
And literally on the spiritual side of the draw, what's being said here is stop focusing on what's wrong and focus on what's good.
Yeah.
Really take time to think about those things and attitude of gratitude, right? We were talking about that before we started the broadcast with Izzy. On the physical side of the draw, there is a definite basically the advice is stop overthinking it. Just stop overthinking it. It's not about the money, it's not about the right words, it's not about any of that. It is purely about the chemistry.
Let it flow.
Let it flow. Indeed,
Let it
indeed,
flow.
indeed, indeed.
I love that.
I love this. I'm loving this reading for sure.
Yeah. Some
Okay.
wonderful things to take with you in your day.
Yeah,
I'm doing
definitely.
I'm doing a huge podcast with our team globally tonight. I'm taking both messages into that evening presentation.
Nice.
Perfectly on point.
Nice.
Thank you. Please do. Please do. On that note, to our audience, thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of our series that we're doing with Izzy Matos of STEM Tech. Today's episode, of course, is all about sex and sexuality, but specifically, we're talking about the STEM Tech products that can handle the physical side of things, giving us the opportunity to really focus on what's important and not worrying about the silliness, right? Which I think is so important.
Right.
As always, please remember to like and subscribe and share this episode with your friends, with your family. We want to really get this light out there into the world as much as possible. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of Laura's book, as always, the link is in the description below. The links for both Izzy's personal and business profiles are also there. And if you're interested in having a look at the products that we were talking about, there is a link in the description as well for that, so you can have a quiz as to exactly what it can do for you. I think its claim to fame is it's the only product out there in a bottle where the side effects are the best part.
Love that.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back soon with part
Thank you, Izzy.
3.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody. Bye.